Reid threw the wrench across the shop floor, so hard, it cracked the concrete and skidded under the lift. For the first time in 15 years, the man everybody on Harlan Street called the charity mechanic stood shaking in the middle of his own garage with nothing left to lose. 11 hours later, he was kneeling in freezing rain, changing a flat tire for a crying teenage girl who wouldn't tell him her name and refused every dollar she offered. He had no idea who her mother was. He had no idea that one phone call the next morning would blow his entire life apart. If you believe kindness still gets paid back in this country, stay with me to the end. The alarm went off at 4:40 in the morning, same as it had for 11 years. And Marcus shut it off before the second beep so it wouldn't wake his daughter. He lay there 1 minute, the way he always did. 1 minute to be tired, 1 minute to be sad, 1 minute to be a 38-year-old widower with $41 in his register and a mortgage on a building nobody wanted. Then the minute was over, and he got up. The heat had been off since November because the furnace repair was $400, and $400 was his daughter's winter coat. He bought a space heater instead and told her he liked the cold. Zoe had looked at him, 8 years old and already too smart, and said, "Dad, you're a bad liar." "I'm a great liar," he said. "You're just the worst audience in America." Downstairs, he cracked 2 eggs into the pan and looked at the envelope that had been sitting on the table for 6 days. He'd read it once. That was enough. Final notice. Reid's garage. Past due $18,240. 30 days, or foreclosure. 6 of the 30 were already gone. He heard the stairs creak and folded the envelope into his back pocket before her foot hit the bottom step. "You're up early." "So are you." "I'm always up. That's the job." Zoe climbed onto the stool, hair already done herself, and pushed her eggs around. "Dad, are we okay?" "What kind of question is that?" "A regular one. We're fine, baby." Bethany Coyle said her dad said, "Your shop's closing." She said her dad said, "You're a..." She stopped. "Say it. Anything you can say out there, you can say in here." A charity case pretending to be a business. A truck rattled by outside with a bad exhaust. "Okay," Marcus said. "You want me to go argue with an 8-year-old? You could argue with her dad. He's got a $30,000 alignment machine and a sign that lights up. That's what he's got. What do I have?" Zoe didn't hesitate. "Me." "That's right," he said. "That's exactly right." Reid's garage sat at the dead end of Harlan Street, a cinder block box with 2 bays and a hand-painted sign nobody could read anymore. Across the street, built to stare it down window to window, sat Kingston Precision Automotive. 9 bays, an LED sign, leather chairs, 4 kinds of coffee. Marcus was under a Buick at 6:40 when he heard Dale Kingston's laugh crossing the street, coffee in hand, his assistant Ronnie trailing him like a smaller dog. "Cal, buddy, how's business?" "Business is business. Ruth Coleman came to me for a brake job. I quoted 640. She said Marcus does it for 200. She's 74, fixed income, bad hip, drives to dialysis twice a week. That's her situation, not mine." Kingston waved his mug at the cracked floor and the dead sign. 15 years and you can't buy a light bulb. They call you the charity mechanic. It's not a compliment. Marcus stood up. And there was the half-second there always was where Kingston remembered how much bigger Marcus was. "Little birdie tells me the bank sent you paper." The rag stopped in Marcus's hands. "Gordon plays golf with me Thursdays. I'll take the lot off you, pay off the bank, put 10 grand cash in your pocket, walk away clean. How much is the lot worth, Dale?" Kingston's smile stopped doing anything. 68,000. That's the assessment. "So you're offering 15 cents on the dollar, because I'm desperate." "I'm offering you a rope, Cal. You're offering me a rope with a knot in it." Kingston's jaw worked. He turned, then stopped. "You know your problem, Marcus? You think being a good man is a business plan." "No. I just think it's the only thing I've got that you can't buy." He walked back to his 9 bays. Ronnie lingered. "He don't mean it. He means every word," Marcus said. "That's the only honest thing about him." At 9:20, Ruth Coleman came in apologizing before she'd said anything, clutching her coin purse. Her car needed brakes she couldn't pay for, and dialysis was Thursday. "Pull it in, Miss Ruth. I can give you $30. Did I ask you for money? You brought me dumplings every Sunday for 6 months after my wife died, and never let me say no. Your credit's worth more than money here." He put $84 of brake pads on her car that he'd been saving to sell, and across the street, Dale Kingston watched him do it and laughed. The bank's man came at 2, khakis and a leather folder. "This isn't personal. The institution's been more than patient. 22 years my father banked there. A handshake in 1988. First union was acquired in 2019. I know when. Do you have a plan? I open at 6:15, close at 7. Fix what comes through the door right the first time. 15 years, only plan I've got. That's not a plan, Mr. Reid. That's a habit. Zoe got off the bus at 3:35 and threw her backpack too hard, and Marcus knew something was wrong before she said a word. How much money do we have? Bethany said. Her dad's going to buy your shop. She said we're going to move. She said she felt sorry for me. He sat down on the creeper, all the way down, so she was looking down at him. Dad, your shop feels like a place where people are safe, she said. Safer than school. Everybody who comes in is scared about something, and then they leave and they're not scared anymore. You unscare people. Marcus Reid, who hadn't cried in front of another soul in years, walked to the parts washer and made a show of looking for something in a drawer. Are you crying? I'm the worst liar in America. So I'm not going to answer that. The rain started at 5:40. Marcus counted the register 3 times. $41. He'd given away 84 in brake pads and taken in 41. He picked up the 3/4-inch wrench and threw it, hard, 15 years behind it. It cracked the concrete and rang under the lift like a bell in an empty church. Dad. He turned. She wasn't scared of him. She was scared for him, which was worse. He got down on one knee. I'm sorry. You're never going to see that again. It's not weak to be mad. Mama used to throw stuff too. You kept the piece of the plate she broke. He tapped his chest pocket, where a chip of blue ceramic had lived for years. Best day of my life, he said. And this time, the laugh was real, and so was hers. He was pulling the bay door down at 7:06 when headlights swung in wrong. Too fast, then too slow, then a hard stop half over the pothole. That told him everything. A black Range Rover, $60,000 or $70,000. The front tire not flat but gone, shredded to the belts, the rim driven bare. Behind the wheel, both hands still at 10 and 2. A girl 17 or 18, staring at nothing, crying the way people cry when they think they're alone. Marcus stepped into the light, hands out, empty. He knocked once, soft. She jerked and hit the horn and screamed. It's okay. I own this shop. That's my name on the building. I'm not coming any closer than this. Just breathe. The window came down 3 inches. I'll move. I'm parked. You're not parked. You stopped. Do you know your tire's gone? Did I do that? I heard a bang on the county road. I just kept driving. 11 miles of nothing, no lights, no shoulder. She'd driven it on a bare rim and hadn't noticed, or hadn't cared. You got somebody to call? No phone. I mean, I have a phone. Nobody to call. She looked at him. There's nobody who wants to hear from me right now. Something in his chest turned over. Well, you landed in the right lot. I'm getting my jack. That's all I'm getting. Watch the whole time if you want. That wheel's coming off, and a spare's going on, and you're going home. I can't pay you. Did I ask you for money? Then don't put words in my mouth. For 1 second, something on her face wasn't misery. It was surprise. He worked in the rain 22 minutes. She got out at minute 4 without being asked, shivering in a coat that cost more than his truck. Lug nuts are seized. Not your fault. 90% of the tire shops in this county use an impact gun and no torque wrench. Why are you talking to me? 'Cause it's cold and you're standing there. Most people ask who I am. I don't need to know who you are. I need to know what size wheel you got, and I already know that. At minute 11, he brought her a bottle of water. She looked at it like a live animal. You've been crying an hour. You're dehydrated whether you feel it or not. Her face came apart worse than before. She sat right down on the wet concrete and sobbed with her whole body. He sat too, 8 feet away, and waited. I'm sorry. I don't know why. It's just water. Yeah, he said. I know. And something in how he said it told her he'd understood the whole thing since the window came down 3 inches. You don't even know me. Nope. Then why are you being nice to me? A long time ago I broke down outside a city with $11 in my pocket and a pregnant wife in the seat. A man named Earl stopped, towed me 40 miles, fixed my water pump, wouldn't take a dime, told me somebody did it for him once, said I'd do it for somebody else. That's the whole system. I'm not a good man, sweetheart. I'm just in the system. He torqued the last nut and stood up. She had a black metal card out. Please, take whatever. Put it away. You don't understand. I have to. Why? Because everybody takes it. Everybody in my entire life takes it. That's the only thing I'm for. She clapped her hands over her mouth, horrified at herself. Somebody helped me once. I'm passing it forward. It's not charity, and it's got nothing to do with your money. Richest kid in America or broke as I am? Same tire, same rain, same price. Now, go home. Slow. Don't push that spare over 60. As the window rose, her face had changed in a way he'd think about the rest of his life. Nobody's ever done that, she said. Given me something. And she drove off into the dark. Inside, his daughter had watched the whole thing through the glass and hadn't said a word. What? Nothing, Dad. Just a small private smile. That night in her doorway, who was she? Somebody with a flat tire. You unscared her. I could see it from the window. At 6:12 the next morning, his phone lit up. Unknown number. He almost let it ring out. Is this Marcus Reid? A woman's voice, too calm. Speaking. My name is Eleanor Vance. Marcus stopped seeing the eggs burning because that name had landed in his kitchen like a piece of furniture. Nobody ordered. Everybody knew the name. It was on buildings downtown, on a plaque at the hospital where Danielle had died. My daughter came home last night, Eleanor said. Marcus, standing there with an eviction notice and $41 in his register, said the only thing in his head. Is she okay? A long silence. What? Your daughter. She was pretty torn up. Drove a good ways on that rim. I've been thinking about her since 10 o'clock. So, is she okay? Mr. Reid, I've spoken to my head of security, my attorney, my family office. Every one of them asked the same question. What does he want? Well, I want to know if she's okay. She's asleep. She hasn't voluntarily come into my office in years, and she stood in the door and told me a man in a garage fixed her tire and wouldn't take her money, and then she cried and couldn't stop. That's not ordinary for her. No, she cried in front of me. I'm a stranger with dirty hands. Sometimes it's easier with a stranger. No bill at the end of it. You're not what I expected. My security team had a file on you by 5:50. Would you like to know what's in it? Not particularly. 38, widower, 1 daughter, 15 years, same address, 211 reviews, averaging 4.9. No complaints, no liens. Except one, 19 days ago. First Union Trust, $18,240. You had somebody look me up before 6 a.m. Why? A man who does something for nothing is either the best person you'll meet all year or the most expensive one. That's kept you rich. Not the same as kept you alive. She laughed, one sharp, surprised syllable. I called to ask if you take appointments. I have a vehicle I'd like looked at. You've got a whole fleet department. That, Eleanor said, is exactly the question I intend to answer. 9 o'clock, bring the registration. I don't work on a car I can't confirm belongs to whoever's standing in front of me. A pause. You're going to ask me for a registration. That's how it works down here. He hung up on Eleanor Vance. By 8:50 he'd scrubbed the shop until his hands shook, then caught himself, and stopped. He'd watched his own father put on a tie to ask for a loan he'd already earned. He wasn't doing that. Dale Kingston found him staring at the crack in the floor. $90,000 Rover in your lot, and you were out there like a valet. Tell me you charged her. Then the lot went dark, blocked. A black sedan swung in, low and quiet. Behind it, a second car. A third. A man built like a filing cabinet swept the roofline in 4 seconds and took his post. Eleanor Vance got out, smaller than Marcus expected. Gray coat, tired eyes no money had fixed. She looked at the faded sign a long moment, then walked in. My registration. He read it front and back, taking his time while Kingston bored a hole in his back. That's you. That's me. Her mouth did something almost like a smile. Kingston stepped forward, salesman voice on. Mrs. Vance, 9 bays, factory certified. Marcus is a good old boy, but he's got 1 lift and no scanner. Mr. Kingston, how much for a brake job on a 74-year-old on a fixed income? $600. And what does he charge? He does it for 2. Why? Kingston stopped. Finish it. Because he's soft. HM, said Eleanor, and turned her back on him. I've been in this building 90 seconds, and I understand it better than my security team did in 3 hours. You didn't have to do that. I didn't do it for you. I've had a bad year. That was the most fun I've had in 6 months. The car she'd brought was old, and that surprised him. A 1994 pickup, faded to rust, a dent shaped like a knee. This isn't your truck. It's registered to me. Nobody bought this truck. This truck got kept, my father's. He hauled gravel, had a stroke in the cab and sat there 40 minutes because he'd told everyone he was fine and nobody argued with him. I've had it in storage 23 years, serviced twice a year, and it's never run right since he died. I've paid over $90,000 to make it right. Get in. I'm going to listen to it. It caught on the second crank and idled clean. He stood 4 feet away, eyes closed. 12 seconds. Shut it off. Nothing's wrong with it. Cleanest small block I've heard in 10 years. Then why doesn't it sound right? Her voice cracked down the middle. Everyone tells me it's fine, and I sit in it, and it's not. And I've started to think they think I'm a crazy woman with a truck. It's the mounts, rubber ones. New mounts are stiff. They pass vibrations straight up through the frame. Your daddy's mounts were 30 years old, soft as a marshmallow, and they soaked all that up. So you're feeling a different truck. Same engine, but it doesn't shake the way it shook when you were 9, sitting next to him. It shook so hard the knob would fall off. He used to catch it without looking. I can fix it, but listen, it won't be him. It'll shake, the knob will fall. You'll drive it out of here, and about 2 miles down the road you're going to feel worse than you feel right now. Because for 10 seconds you'll think he's in the seat, and then you'll remember he isn't. That's a thing you can't undo. Think before you say yes. How do you know that? I kept my wife's car 2 years after she passed. One Sunday it smelled like her. And I couldn't get out of the driveway for 2 hours. And my little girl knocked on the glass. Sold it that August. Best $100 I ever lost. Eleanor's eyes were shining. Put the mounts in. She stayed 3 hours, sitting on the toolbox stool Zoe used, watching him work. My daughter told me before she went upstairs, "Do you know how weird it is that a person didn't want anything from me?" She's 17, and the strangest thing that's ever happened to her is a man not wanting anything. The truth? The truth. She drove 11 miles on a bare rim, sparks off the front end, and didn't stop. 16 minutes of the front end coming apart underneath her, and she didn't notice, or didn't care. I don't like either answer, and I don't have a third. She has a therapist, a driver, a nutritionist, and she does not have anyone to call. You're her mother. You're the one it would hurt. Eleanor Vance put her face in her hands in a garage on Harlan Street. He dropped the truck off the lift. It shook the whole cab. The radio knob shivered off its post, and he caught it without looking. The way you catch something you've caught 1,000 times, except he never had. He folded her fingers over it. She shook harder than the truck had. He didn't touch her, just stood close enough she wasn't alone, far enough she kept her dignity. 4 minutes. Well, damn you. Yes, ma'am. What do I owe you? 110. No labor. Then the thing that changed the room. There's a lien on this building. His face closed. I'd like you to leave now. 23 days. His voice got lower, which was worse. You get a checkbook out in my shop, and I'll put the hard mounts back in and hand you the keys. Don't try me. She took out her phone instead. If you had the bays, a second man, a third, how many commercial vehicles could you service in a week, at your standard, with your name on it? I'm going to hold you to the number. I have 406 vehicles in this state, she said, maintained by a national contract that costs $2.4 million a year, and 300 pages of complaints. I've been trying to get out of it 18 months, so I'm not going to give you $18,000. I'm going to ask you to bid. Across the street, Dale Kingston watched a woman he'd called Ma'am stand in Marcus Reid's shop for the 4th straight hour. Ma'am, I've got one lift, one man, and 23 days before a bank takes the building the lift is bolted to, I'm aware. If I write you a check today, you keep this building 11 months, then you're back here. Because the check doesn't fix the problem. You charge $200 for a $600 job. A check delays it. A bid you can win with one lift. That's better. 6 weeks ago, a box truck of mine came off the interstate. Brake failure. The service record was signed off by a technician 200 miles away that day. $2.4 million a year, and I'm buying signatures. Yesterday, a mechanic changed my daughter's tire in the rain for free. I've been trying to buy that for 18 months. You still have to bid it, in a room, against my CFO, who's going to hate you on sight. 14 days. I don't know how to write a proposal. No, you have 14 days to learn. And the bank isn't my business, she said, meeting his sharp look dead level. It's yours. The minute I fix it, you're my employee. And I don't want an employee. I want a vendor. A vendor can look me in the face and tell me no. At the door, my father borrowed $19,000 in 1979 from a bank that didn't want to give it to him. It was everything. Nobody handed it to him either. Why'd you really come here? To thank you. My daughter looked at me the way she did when she was 6, for 4 seconds, and I'd burn my whole company down to get 4 more. She left. Marcus wrote at the top of his notebook, in block letters, BID. Underneath, 46 vehicles. He put his hands over his face. I don't know how to do this. Zoe came home to find her father sitting on her stool with a notebook, which had never happened. If it got bigger, would this still be a safe place? It's not the building, Dad. It's you. Miss Ruth doesn't come here for the building. Have you seen the building? He didn't sleep. By 4 a.m. he had numbers: 406 vehicles, 14,600 labor hours a year. Under it, I have 1 lift and 2 hands. Needs 6 bays, 5 techs, software, insurance. Then, because a Reid never leaves a column without a total, start anyway. He called Jamal Reeves, who worked for Kingston. How much does Dale pay you? 18 an hour. 60 hours. He calls it salary. Come see me Saturday, 7 a.m. I'll cook. Then 40 phone calls in 3 days that nobody films, because they're just a man being told no. 40% down on lifts. A 2-year software contract. An insurance broker who laughed. You'd need a bond, sir. Do you know what a bond is? He called the bank. I need 30 more days. Do you have that in writing? I've got a woman's word. Whose? Eleanor Vance's. A long pause. Mr. Reid, I want to be delicate. If I take that upstairs, they're going to think you're, say it, not well. I know. I'm sorry, Nathan. I know you are. That's what makes it worse. Dale Kingston crossed the street without his coffee, which is how Marcus knew. You're bidding on the Vance fleet. I've got 9 bays and a bond, and I sent them a proposal in 22. They didn't even reject it. And she stands in your dump 4 hours. Something Marcus had never seen crossed Kingston's face. Not mean, scared. I've got $1,000,001 in that building, and it's not mine. I need 40 cars a week just to make the note. And there's 20 in this whole town, and I've been fighting you for 20 of them for 9 years. $200 for a brake job. Do you know what that does to me? Every customer in my waiting room thinks I'm the crook, because Marcus would have done it for 2. It's on the fact that I don't have a note, Marcus said quietly. A paid-for building my daddy bought in '88. I can charge $200 because I don't owe anybody but the bank. And now I owe the bank too. You're going to lose the bid, lose the building, and I'll buy this lot at auction for 40 cents on the dollar. He stopped, and his voice went flat and businesslike. Your girl rides the bus with mine. Marcus came off the fender. What did you say? Just making conversation. Kingston smiled and left. Jamal came Saturday in a jacket too thin for the weather. Zoe set a plate in front of him without being asked, and he looked at it like the first kindness in a year. I'm the best tech in that building. I fix Dale's mistakes twice a week, and don't tell him, because Dale's got a kid. Then why 18 an hour on a fake salary? Because he hired me when nobody would. I did 9 months at 20. 11 places said no. He's never let me forget it. Not one day in 6 years. Who else is going to have me? Me, Marcus said. He turned the notebook around. 24 an hour, time and a half after 40, every hour on a card. Health insurance in 6 months if I'm still standing. Nobody in my shop signs a box on a truck they didn't touch. Ever. You don't have the contract. You don't have the building past the 15th. I've got 20 days and a spiral notebook, and I'm asking you to quit for a man who might be out of business by Christmas. The first tell my own daughter not to do it. Why me? Because you wouldn't take Dale's $20 bet Thursday night. A man who won't take a sure $20 because the bet's ugly. That's the whole interview. Jamal put his face in his hands. He'll ruin me. Tell every shop about my record. Yeah, he will. So if you go under, I've got nothing. That's right, he laughed, helpless. Worst offer anybody's ever made me. It's the only honest one. Monday, Jamal said, hand shaking. I want it in writing. Not because I don't trust you. I need to see it, one time, written down. Marcus wrote it on the back of a foreclosure envelope and signed it. Jamal folded it 4 times and put it in his shirt pocket over his heart and never took it out again. Monday they started. Tuesday, Kingston called 11 shops in 3 counties. Wednesday, Ruth Coleman set her coin purse on the counter. $410. From my sister's insurance. I've had it in a coffee can 11 years. If you say one word about my hip, I will hit you with this purse. I can't take it. It's $400 and I owe $18,000. It won't do a thing. That's not for you to decide. You've been deciding what people can give you for 15 years. Do you know how it feels to be somebody who can only take? No, ma'am, I don't. Well, now you do. She walked out, and Marcus Reid stood there and cried for the 2nd time in years, and Jamal, God bless him, stayed under the truck and didn't look up. Thursday, Sienna called. I wanted to say thank you properly. I heard my mom on the phone with our CFO, Walter Grimes. He said, if you hand $2.4 million to a 1-bay garage because your kid had a flat tire, the board will have your head, and they'll be right, she said. Then he'll bid like everyone else, he said. Then he'll lose like everyone else. And at least it'll be quick. He's right, Marcus said. I've got 1 lift, 20 days, and a guy named Jamal. Your mom's CFO isn't a villain. He's a man doing arithmetic, and the arithmetic says I lose. Then why are you doing it? Because my daughter told me this shop is a safe place, and I'd like to find out if it's worth anything in a room where they count. Silence. Then, quiet. 9 days. They're not going to let you present last. You're at 8 in the morning, before anybody's awake. The national firm's at 11, with pastries at 10:30. Marcus went still. You're first. Grimes built the agenda. My mom doesn't know, he started, slowly, to smile. Text me that agenda. Reid's Garage, 8 a.m., 20 minutes. Fleet Corp National, 11, 60 minutes. Kingston Precision, 1:30, 45 minutes. He read that last line twice. Well, hell, Jamal had to sit on an oil drum. He's at 1:30. I'm at 8. The second I walk into that lobby, he'll know I'm with you. Then don't walk into the lobby. I'm not letting you go alone. 6 years I kept my mouth shut in his building. Marcus drove to the Vance distribution yard at 4:30 in the morning with donuts and a thermos, and waited. Frank Delgado reached him first. 15 minutes. 3 vendors have come out here in 19 years. Everyone with a clipboard. No clipboard. By 6:30, 19 men stood around the tailgate. Marcus just asked questions. Number 2s had a shimmy at 55 for 2 years. Do they even start the truck when they write it up? They don't even start half of them. 12 minutes. I timed it once because I was mad. They bill you $480 a unit for that. 19 men went quiet. Marcus understood, standing there, that he wasn't bidding against a national firm. He was bidding against a lie that had run for 6 years. The wreck outside town, before it happened, did you write it up? The lot went dead silent. 4 times in 5 months, Frank said, his voice going very level, which was worse than if it had risen. 4 times. 4 stickers that said serviced. 5th time the pedal went to the floor at 62, and I put it in a ditch. Standing there shaking, you know what I thought? They're going to say it was me. I've got 20 minutes and 9 days with the people who signed that check. I don't have slides. I've got 1 lift and a man named Jamal. Would you tell them what you just told me? They won't let a driver in that room. Then you'd walk in with me, Kingston found out on day 5. He didn't yell, which is how Marcus knew it was bad. You called compliance, Marcus said. Told them there's a bidder employing a convicted felon. Wondered if that squared with their vendor policy, seeing as their trucks run federal highways. Jamal came out from under the truck fast enough to skin his knuckles. Get back under the truck. Kingston's face went soft and terrible. Jamal, I gave you a job when nobody would. Fed your family 6 years, and you didn't even tell me. You never once said my name, Dale, Jamal said, shaking. 6 years, and you called me kid, called me my guy. Never Jamal. He said it inside of 9 seconds. And cooked me eggs. That's what this is? Eggs? Yeah, Dale, that's what this is. Kingston's voice dropped flat. Compliance will call Monday. And that bank paper's the 15th, 4 days after the bid. Even if you give the greatest 20 minutes in history, they can't hand $2.4 million to a company that doesn't own a building. You think being right is the same as winning. It ain't. Never has been. He walked back across the street. Compliance called Monday. 1 employee, Marcus said. His name is Jamal Reeves. He's 26, served 9 months at 20. Best technician in this county, and the only man I'd let put brakes on a truck my daughter rides behind. If that disqualifies me, disqualify me, but do it today so I can get back to work. A long pause. Mr. Reid, I've made 200 of these calls. Nobody's ever just said yes. The night before, Marcus couldn't eat. Are you scared? Zoe asked. Yeah, baby. I am. He told her the rest of the Earl story. The part he'd never told. How Danielle had said, that's the kind of man I want you to be. And he'd said, that man's got a wrecker and a driveway. I've got $11. And she'd said, he didn't have any of that in 1971 either. He got there at 6:40. Frank was already in the lobby with Jamal and 4 more drivers. Word got around. They'll fire you. We figured we'd try telling the truth once, see what it costs. At 8, he sat down at a table with 9 people and Eleanor Vance at the far end, not looking at him. Walter Grimes stood up. Do you know why you're on this agenda? Because your CEO asked and you couldn't say no to her face. So you put me at 8 in a cold room and gave the national firm 60 minutes with pastries at 10:30. The room went silent. You have 1 lift. And you're bidding $2.4 million? No, sir. 1.4. A pen hit the table. Nobody can do the work for that. You can if you actually do it. Your current vendor bills $480 a unit for a 90-day service. I've done these 15 years. A real one is 90 minutes. They're doing them in 12. I've got 19 drivers who watch them do it, and a man in your lobby who rode up his brakes 4 times. got 4 false stickers back, and put a box truck in a ditch at 62 miles an hour. Grimes went white. That's a serious allegation. It's not an allegation, sir. It's a bid. I'm not charging you for 78 minutes of nothing, 4 times a year, on 406 trucks. You're not overpaying for labor. You're overpaying for air. How can you possibly service 406 vehicles with 1 lift? How long does it take your company to build a bay? 6 weeks. So the thing I don't have takes 6 weeks in a purchase order. How long does it take to build a man who won't sign a box he didn't touch? There's no purchase order for that. You can't buy it. You can only find it, and when you find it, he's usually broke, because that's the price of it. You've got 9 bays 3 miles from here, at a shop where the owner checks a woman's hip before he quotes her. In 4 years he'll do to you exactly what your current vendor did. I'm asking you to go look at truck 212, bay 4, back row, shimmy at 55, written up 11 times, come back no fault found 11 times. I stood next to it Tuesday, and I'd bet this building. It's a bad tie rod end. It's a $9 part, and there's a man who drives that truck at 55 every day with a grandson at home. He stood. That's my bid. 1.4, 6 bays in 90 days, 3 techs I'll name in writing, every card signed by the hand that turned the wrench. Catch one that isn't. Tear it up that day. There's 4 drivers in your lobby who took the morning off unpaid to stand in that room. I'd take it as a kindness if somebody told them it was worth it. He was at the door when Grimes said, "Mr. Reid." He'd been typing. Our yard supervisor just walked to bay 4. 212 has a tie rod end with a 1/4 inch of play. He can move the wheel with his hand. It's scheduled out at 4:30 this morning. Medical supplies. Eleanor stood. Pull it. Now, Harold. Marcus stood in the doorway and watched 9 people turn and look at a mechanic who just told them the truth for free, same as he'd done in a rainstorm for a girl who couldn't stop crying. Grimes looked at him like a man who'd been doing arithmetic for 22 years and had finally been handed a number he couldn't make come out. Sit down. Tell me about the bank. I owe $18,240. I've made 60 calls in 11 days. There's nothing to get, Eleanor. Don't. She was standing. It's not my decision, Harold, and it never was. I'm not asking anybody for anything, Marcus said. I came to tell you what's wrong with your trucks. Do whatever you want with it. He stood to leave. Sit down, please, Grimes said. I'm asking you a favor. Give me 40 minutes. I have a bidder at 11 whose invoices I now have to look at differently. Sit in the lobby. Drink our coffee. Marcus waited 2 hours and 10 minutes. They pulled 212 off the board, Frank said. 19 years I wrote it up. You looked at it from 6 feet away. Anybody could have seen it. No. Anybody could have looked. Nobody did. At 10:50, Dale Kingston arrived 3 hours early, pressed shirt, leather folder, and stopped dead at the row of them in the lobby. You bid under me? I do the work for that every day, Dale. You've watched me do it out your window for 9 years and called me soft. Kingston gave his 45 minutes, polished, slides. Grimes asked one question at the end. How long a 90-day service took in his shop. We're very efficient. Under an hour. Something went out of the room like air out of a tire. They called at 4:15 the next day. 2 questions, honest answers. 6 bays in 90 days, can you do it? If someone signs a purchase order Monday. 60 days if the weather holds. Name your 3 technicians. Jamal Reeves, and I don't have the other 2 yet. A pause. Every other bidder handed me 40 names. The national firm's roster has a man who's been dead since March. You had a chance to lie to me, and used it to tell me you have 1 employee. I've got 1 employee, sir. I know. That's the entire problem, and it may be the entire answer. The board met Thursday. The sale was Friday at 10. Marcus didn't hear a word all day. He worked. Closed the register at 3:60, the best day in a month. And it didn't matter. Dad, if they take the shop, where do we go? Clarksville? Probably. Would you have your name on the building? No, baby. That's okay. You'd still be the one who does it right. He put his head down on his own workbench and laughed until it turned into the other thing. And his daughter put her hand on the back of his neck and didn't say anything because she'd learned it from him. At 6:40 the next morning, 3 hours and 20 minutes before the sale, a black sedan came alone. I'm not permitted to be here, Eleanor said. Legal told me not to come. I wanted to say it in this building instead of on a phone. You won. 1.4. 6 bays in 90 days, capital advanced at 4%, a loan, and you'll pay every dime, and Harold will enjoy collecting it. 9-1. Harold voted yes. Why? He pulled the national firm's invoices himself. $11 million over 6 years. Billed on days the trucks were on the road. He came into my office at 2 in the morning and said, A man with one lift saw it in 11 days, and I didn't see it in 6 years. And I don't know how to live with that. I said, vote your conscience. He said, that's what I'm afraid of. The bank isn't my business, Marcus said. I told you 19 days ago I wouldn't write that check, and I meant it. I did do one thing. My counsel sent First Union a copy of an executed vendor agreement worth $1.4 million a year for 5 years, with your name on it, contingent on your continued ownership of this parcel. That's not a gift. That's a fact. The bank called at 8:51. The sale's off. Restructured. 7 years, 6.2%. I've worked here 4 years and never seen the committee reverse a foreclosure. A man upstairs said, well, we're not going to be the bank that foreclosed on him. Not because it was right, because of how it would look. I stopped needing it to be pretty 15 years ago. I just needed the door open at 6:15. The concrete crew broke ground in January, 6 bays and a lube pit. Before it set, Marcus knelt and wrote in the wet corner, for Danielle, always. Jamal ran 3 texts by spring, 4 by summer, every card signed by the hand that turned the wrench. Frank Delgado kept a note from a CFO he'd never met in the visor of truck 212 until the day he retired. Kingston sold his shop that September. Marcus found him alone in his own waiting room. TV on, no sound. Come to make an offer? I want to buy your 9 bays for what they're worth, and I want you to run them. Fleet manager. 406 trucks, and I'm still turning wrenches myself. You hate me. I did. You called my kid's bus a threat, and I'm not going to forget it. You work for me. You never quote another price in your life. You never look at another woman's hip. And the first time I catch you doing math on somebody's coin purse, you're done. I won't yell. I'll just open the door. Why? Kingston asked, hands over his face. Because somebody stopped for me outside a city 30 years ago, and I've been trying to pay him back ever since, and I can't. He's dead. The only thing you can do with it is hand it to the next person. You're the next person. That's all it ever is. Dale Kingston worked for Marcus Reid for years and never once quoted a price. Sienna Vance came by most Saturdays, sat on the toolbox with Zoe, learned to run a torque wrench badly. She told her mother in college she was switching out of finance. To what? Anything where somebody hands me a bottle of water. Eleanor didn't understand it and signed the form anyway. On a Friday evening in May 20 months, after a girl drove 11 miles on a bare rim, they turned on the sign, Reid's Garage, and underneath, smaller, because Zoe insisted, Est, 1988. Ruth Coleman stood out front with her coin purse. Frank brought his grandson. Jamal stood at the back with an envelope folded 4 times in his shirt. Zoe Reid, 10 years old now, looked up at the light coming on over her father's name. Dad, I knew this place would become something special. Marcus Reid looked at his 6 bays, the 9 across the street, the people who worked for him, and a crack in the concrete he had never once filled in. Baby, he said, it was always special.